Hi, I'm Greg Ullin with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. We're live at NADA here in Las Vegas. I get to sit down with Dave Rogers, who's the Fixed Ops Director at Piazza Auto Group. Dave, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, it's great to be here. Enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a great show this year, a lot of energy. I wanted to get with you, though. I'm really excited. So, well, first of all, Piazza Auto Group, Northeast, Philly, kind of surrounding area.
Right.
How many stores do you all have right now?
Right now, we have 31 stores.
31 stores.
Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Delaware.
Yeah. So I mean, large dealer group, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a lot of variables across the group, a lot of different franchises,
Yep.
A lot of different makes that you're representing. So I'm really interested in your perspective just because of that experience and that diversity that you get to see. But really wanted to start by digging into making the most of every opportunity in the service drive, right? So when you think about our history in the service drive, it used to be, you were saying, and I guess I can ask you, how long you been in the business?
42 years
42
plus.
years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But 42 years ago, right, when a customer had a vehicle, at a minimum, you got to see them and touch that car 4 times a year.
Correct.
Right? Like
Yep.
3 months, 3,000 miles.
Every 3,500 miles, right?
Yep. And now it's once or twice, depending on the driver and depending on the model.
Right.
I mean, so you have fewer at bats. So
Right.
it's really important to make the most of those at bats when we have them. So I want to start there and just some of the things maybe that you're focused on across your group to do that, to make the most of every opportunity that you have with each customer.
It's funny you use that term because I've been talking about maximizing every opportunity for years.
There you go.
It's been the battle cry, let's say.
Yeah.
We believe in doing things the right way. We're not trying to sell anything somebody doesn't need.
Right.
We don't, flush your brains out or do any of the other stuff that's, I would say people would say is shady. Get them in twice a year has been our philosophy, no matter what make or model. Some manufacturers say 1 year. I say that's BS,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. The car needs to be in twice a year.
Well, at least for an inspection.
Yep. Oil change, tire rotation, and then just check the car out. Doesn't have to be anything extravagant. But the biggest thing has been I think the quality of the inspections. I think technicians and advisors are a little bit more cognizant. When you were 4 times a year, and I was really busy, I could kind of probably slide the brake job for 3 months.
Yeah.
I could probably slide something if I was jammed up. Now seeing them twice a year, I think puts a little more urgency into what we do. And listen, parts have gone up, prices have gone up. I mean, obviously we know revenue's gone up. But the bottom line is that I think we do a much better job of checking the car out each and every time it comes in. I think overall, I think customers expect you to do that.
Yeah.
Years ago, I don't think we had the wherewithal to know that we were responsible to make sure that car was safe to drive. And, 27-point checks and multi-point inspections, they weren't developed to the late 90s.
Yeah.
We really didn't do anything that was formal, and now you have videos, now you have the multi-point, you have all this stuff. So yeah, before 1998, I don't think we had anything but maybe a 27-point check. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, for your group, do you standardize an inspection? Because some manufacturers obviously have the inspection sheet that they want you to use,
Yes.
and you have to do some of those things. So do you have kind of a standard Piazza Auto Group inspection? Do you go by the manufacturer's inspection sheet? How do you manage that?
Generally, it's manufacturer specific. Each of our brands, whatever the manufacturer is looking for, Mazda has their own. They each have their own form that we try to use.
Right.
Op codes, whatever the manufacturer wants.
Yeah.
We try to train for the stores to kind of do it the same, though.
Yeah.
You want to obviously pull the tires, look at the brakes, measure the tires. When we incorporate the videos, try to do it the same way each time. But yeah, it's a little bit more specific by each manufacturer.
Yeah, and it's a really important piece, and we'll get into video. You mentioned that too. We'll get into that in a minute. But just on the MPI itself, how do you? Because it sounds like you're focused on it. It sounds like you have training processes in place. So clearly, it's a big deal for you. How do you measure it? How do you make sure that it gets done and it's done well? Because I think that's the other thing is you can do it and you can see if it was done, but how do you know if it was a thorough inspection or not? Like, how do you measure that?
Well, we used to look at the handwritten multi-points, right?
Right.
And, it was very labor intensive to look through it. And, I recall looking through it in one of my stores a few years ago and noticed that every time this one express tech touched the car, it did need a tire rotation somehow. He was a genius. He could tell the car didn't need a tire rotation. and at the same time, he wouldn't inspect the brakes. So that was a very manually time-consuming process, right?
Yeah.
So now with the technology, with the service lane technology, I can see instantly by store what percentage of the cars are getting a multi-point. And then there's other reports. So I can look at like the top 10 labor operations that are recommended by each technician. So I had a discussion the other day with one of my stores that it was about tires, and tires weren't in the top 10 of any of the techs. So I said, well, they're not measuring tires. Well, how do you know? I said, well, it should be in the top 10. 40% of the cars on the road need tires at any given time. So it's just by math, it has to be there.
Right.
So when you look at it, you have to look granular, but at least the technology is there now to look at it. It's not so labor intensive, which I find awesome. That was the missing piece for years.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. What are some other, so for, let's say somebody that just moved into a service manager role, it's kind of their first time in the gig. So tires, that's a great example. Right. What are the other ones that they should look out for, just as kind of that low hanging fruit? Like, okay, if this is off or this isn't there, that's a red flag.
Yeah. Alignments, another one. Generally the service writer, I think, should be recommending the alignment based on 1 year intervals. Technicians should also recommend based on what they see. If it's not sold when the advisor first writes them up, that's an easy one. I think, if you don't see that in the top 10, you're missing out. Air filter, cabin filters, another big one. It's probably a number one recommended item. Yeah. And then I think the one that I think people look past is wiper blades. Yeah. You should be replacing wiper blades once a year. And if it's not recommended, and a lot of times the service writer does a walk around but doesn't look at the wiper blade. Yeah. Maybe someone doesn't check it. The tech should be recommended at all times. So, those are easy ones. They're not high dollar. That it's not like you're trying to sell something like a catalytic converter. You're trying to sell wiper blades. But it shows you the quality of the inspection.
No, that's a good point. And wiper blades is a good one because honestly, I would imagine if you don't even have to look at them. If you just ask the question to the customer, hey, think about the last time it rained. Exactly. Were you happy with the way your wipers worked? Right. Half of them are going to say no. Right?
No, that's exactly right.
Okay, well, new wipers are 40, but whatever they are, right? And we can put them on while you're in here. Right. Great, do it.
Right, because people they don't think about it. If it's not raining that day, they're not going to self-sell it, right? Right. But that's the perfect question. Last time it rained, how were the wipers? Oh yeah, they sucked.
I was real annoyed that day.
Right, it's the same thing. So
no, that's great. Okay, so let's jump into video.
Okay.
How long have you had your techs been leveraging video in the MPI? How do they use it? What's kind of the use case? Are they all using it? Because you see different levels of utilization across different stores. So how are you handling it?
I was fortunate. In 2015, I was a general manager of a Volkswagen store, which was good and bad because that was the year of Dieselgate, I think, 16, right? But we had this free program with a company that was offering video MPI type things. Volkswagen offered to give it to us, like subsidize it. So I went with it. I said, hey, let's give it a shot. Yeah. And we had 2 advisors that we knew weren't selling. And all of a sudden we let the techs send these videos directly to the customer. So they all bought in because they knew the writers were screening the work, right? Yeah. And we went from like 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours in a row in 2 weeks, It was some crazy number. Then 3.5. It was amazing. And it was a Volkswagen store, labor intensive repair work that we could sell. Right there, I was sold. I mean, just like I realized how great it was, right? Yeah. Now, fast forward, companies like True Video, there's a bunch of them out there where you can pause the video, you can do some neat things. I felt that, it's one of those things where you're taking the waiting room customer. We used to take the air filter and the cabin filter out to the customer and show them in the waiting room. Well, now you're doing that same thing with the customer that's at home. Yep. So, showing it, believing it, the buzzword of transparency, right? Sure. But it's true, right? You're showing people what it needs. And then, to answer the other part, it's a mixed bag. Some technicians just want to give you a hard time. Sometimes it's the management that just doesn't want to push the button. Yeah. But my sell when I go into them and I talk to the service writer, I talk to the manager or the techs is, have you ever bought anything online, Amazon, whatever, they haven't seen a picture of? Right. And the answer is always no. So why would you not show the customer a picture of what they need? And usually that helps them turn the corner because now they internalize it, Yeah. So
I mean, it's no different than merchandising a car.
Anything,
right? Like when you're selling it on the front end, right? You better have pictures, and you got to have these 42 pictures, and they all need to look the same. And they all need to be crisp.
That's right.
And you probably need to have a video walk around. And it's no different when you're selling service, right? I mean, these are not, and at this point, we're not talking about inexpensive repairs. I mean, I don't know what's your average ticket.
It depends on the brand, but you're talking about some of the premium stores. You're looking at sales of $1,500-$1,600. Right. You're looking at the volume brands of $500. So, you're not talking about pennies.
Right. It's not insignificant money.
No, not at all.
So having some merchandising around it to show them, hey, just sell it. Like, and that's what you have to do. It's not, I don't know. It's not a matter of like, oh, hey, you need this. It's okay. Well, sell me on it and tell me why I should get it done with you. Right. And that's part of the puzzle too.
It's the big part of it. A lot of people in the service advisors, they don't know what a car payment is. They don't know the average person's paying over $750 a month, right? They still think it's $299, I think, right? So they don't understand that, this lady's driving a car, they're paying $750 a month. Like, don't be afraid to tell them what the car needs, right?
Yeah.
And I think the video shows it, and it kind of forces the sale.
Yeah.
We do it mixed. Sometimes we have the advisor send it.
Yeah.
Other times we have the technician send it directly. I think that way works best. It kind of forces it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because advisors, we all know from history, they screen work. Based on their perception and their whatever, their values or whatever they think's vital. Yeah. So that's the big thing with videos. I mean, it's just getting the buy-in. We've had to pay some techs to do it just to get them on board. Yeah. But when you show them the delta that you're making an extra 7/10 in RO, it's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get with it. So
yeah. Well, that was something I wanted to ask too. So you mentioned paying techs. I've seen stores where they will pay they'll pay them a tenth or 2/10 or something for the video or for the inspection to get them kind of on it, and then they'll do that for 3 months or 6 months, and it's like, okay, we're gonna move back off of this, but you've obviously picked up plenty of hours, by doing this as a tool. Right. But usually they're also upfront with them saying, hey, early on, because it's going to take a little longer, it's something new, you have to get used to it, we're going to pay you for this. Right. Once it's settled in, we're going to pull back on that payment. But just that transparency up front seems to be helpful with the technicians internally. So has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, we've had some guys that just adopt, and then other stores where they're just hardcore, they want to be paid for everything, whatever the case is. Yes, we'll start the spiff, we'll do it, pay them a 10, 2, like you said, work it through for 3-4 months, and then show them the results. Yeah. And you can show, based on the reporting, you're in an extra hour in a row. Why wouldn't you want to do this? And then, they always come up with, well, the car's got 5,000 miles. I'm wasting my time. Yeah, okay, but the guy's going to have 50,000 miles and he's going to be expecting that video now, and you're going to have a better opportunity to upsell. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the advisor screening it. Yeah, right. And then if you explain it to them right, most technicians get it. Yeah. They're just going to give you a hard time in the beginning because it's new. That's all they're going to do.
Yeah, well, and I mean, time's time, right? So, I mean, every 6 minutes matters to them. Every 6 minutes should be paid. So that's, I mean, it's understandable.
It is. Perception. I get it. To a certain extent, I get it. I mean, there's been some cases where if the car's got no mileage, low mileage, and we want them to do it, we say, listen, we'll pay you for it. If they don't buy anything, we'll pay you for it. If nothing's upsold, we'll still pay you for it. But when we do upsell something, we're not going to pay you for that one.
Right. We gave you this tool to sell it, right?
Right. So. We sold it. Now, we're going to waive the 2/10, and they're usually okay with that. It's not a big deal.
That's fair.
So, it's like diag time. Sometimes you waive it, sometimes you don't, right?
That's good. So, using these tools, so MPI, that's been around for a while. You have a standard, kind of make sure everybody does it. Video, newer, right? You said you've been using it for about 10 years, though.
I've been using it for about 10 years. Yeah. And then my group, when I joined the group in 17, I started rolling it out in probably 18, all the stores, So, and we've done a good job with it, across the board.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the things I'm always curious about, and I think it does depend on your market, and it depends on your brands. So I think there's some variables, but speaking in a little more generalities for you, do you see higher acceptance rate when you use video versus not using video, or at a minimum pictures? And what I mean is basically more customers saying yes, right? So does it have an impact on your acceptance rate when your techs use the video?
Yes, it definitely has an impact. I want to caveat, if the video is viewed, if the customer views the video, you have a much higher upsell rate on those tickets. And about 80% of them are viewed, so that's pretty good. Yeah. You get 20% that don't, and I think when you back it in, you start looking at those customers just don't want to know, and they're going to say no anyway. Right. So that's fine. You know what I mean? You just have to understand that. But when we look at overall closing rates and stuff, pretty good job is 35 to 40%. And that's up from probably the mid 30s, low 30s. Nice. And I think using the videos definitely helped that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, I think every solution causes another problem sometimes. So, one of the things that I'm interested in right now is technician productivity.
And, we've talked about MPIs, we've talked about video. So we're asking techs to do a lot of these things. And, when you look at productivity, technician productivity, and I define that as the percentage of time that a tech is in the store that they're actually turning a wrench. And you look at our benchmarks over really about the last 10 years from 2016 on, we're going down, right? We were 92, then 89, then 87. So that percentage of time is going down. And again, there's reasons for it, but that trend line isn't one for success in a service department. So what are some ways to help claw back some of that time? Because you can't just not do the MPI and you can't not do the video. So have you come up with other ways or other areas that you can maybe create more efficiencies so that they can still do those things, but that productivity doesn't keep going down?
I think the service tools help.
Yeah.
Because you can send your request the parts without leaving your bay, right? You don't have to go up and check parts and price and availability all the time, which was a total waste of time, right? They used to drive me crazy in the store. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I'm checking price and availability. I said, well, we didn't sell anything yet. It's like $1 in a dream for a lottery ticket. Like you're just hoping you sell it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that tool helps where they can send the request into parts and the advisor can get that estimate sent out while they're still working on the car, doing whatever they have to do. I've seen the parts robots. I think that's another time saver. But the biggest thing I think is you have to listen. We have to deal with manufacturers. They have rules. They're throwing hurdles in our way every chance.
Yeah.
You got to some manufacturers. You have to take a picture of the license plate, a picture of the VIN plate, a picture of the mileage. They think it saves time than punching in and out, which it doesn't. Right. Taking the pictures of old parts and new parts to prove you did the work.
Yeah.
A lot of the manufacturers are slowing us down working on the cars where they're changing their work instructions. So they're adding in one-time use parts.
Yep.
A technician can't even flat rate a job that he's done 10 times because the rules might change, right?
Yep.
So, we're looking for ways to do it by, obviously more customer pay. We want our work mix to be over 60% customer pay. That's what we strive for. We do pay guys for getting stuck on trouble jobs too. You get some new recalls, you get some new stuff, and we help them out. We'll pad them up. We got a new thing that comes out from the manufacturer, pays 2/10, takes a guy an hour. We're going to subsidize it a little bit to try to help them out because it's not fair. They do take the brunt of everything. And I guess, I got a soft spot. I was a tech at one time. I still remember what it was like. But like you said, what's fair is fair.
Right.
Now they're spending less time working on cars. And unless they're more efficient on each job, which isn't necessarily going to happen,
right,
they're going to make less money. So, we focused a little bit this year and last year with really honing in, setting objectives for techs and getting everybody involved.
Yeah.
You work 2,000 hours a year. Techs shouldn't go home with less than 2,000 flat rate hours. That's my number, right?
Yeah.
Some guys are doing 2,400, 2,800, 3,000.
Yeah.
Let's keep them going, right? But the guys that are making less than 2,000, let's work with them. Let's figure it out. You got to figure it out,
Yeah.
And it might be they just don't know how to flat rate a job. Maybe they need to be trained. Maybe they're getting the wrong work, but you got to get in there and you got to get granular. So, it's really what it is. You got to get granular with these guys and see what's going on. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so how do you manage, because you were talking about one-time use parts and so when you think about warranty work, how do you manage a tech's balance between warranty work and customer pay work? And then maybe a two-part question. So how do you balance that where they're not stuck with warranty work all the time and getting chargebacks to the store if they don't, replace the axle nut or whatever,
right?
With making sure they get that customer pay work that they can turn a lot quicker too. Do you have a formula for making sure that they're getting the right mix?
It's not really a formula, but I think I leave it up to the service manager or dispatch or whatever. You got to be aware.
Yeah.
It's tough. You get these, your master techs, your A rates. You have some guys that don't want to work on cash work. They just want to muck through the hard stuff. They're challenged by it. But most guys need something to cool their jets every once in a while.
Yeah.
You got to give them a service. You got to give them a PDI. You got to give them a used car or something. And that's just awareness and good management. Let's put it that way,
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about being a great leader. Hey, I want some good managers too.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to manage the process. And, we focus on hours per day and how many hours they're making.
Yep.
And if you're looking at it every day, you're going to see, hey, what happened over there? Oh, I got stuck on a big wiring job. All right, here's a couple gravy jobs to get you caught up. You know, and that's case by case. And we have these discussions at dispatch. Everyone thinks it's a science.
Yeah,
it's really an art. I tell the story. My daughters are wonderful artists. They paint, they draw. They could never teach me how to paint or draw. It's not in me, right?
Yeah.
And you have a dispatcher, it's the same thing. If you have it in you, I can teach you. but if you don't, you're never going to learn because it's not a science, it's an art. So.
No, that's fair. Well, there are so many variables, and a lot of those variables are people. To your point, and that matters, and you got to pay attention to the people. If you don't, then bad things happen.
Right. It's all
forever.
about people.
Yeah.
People and processes. That's what we do.
Right.
It's been that way for 100 years.
Well, and people are always first, right?
Yep.
It's people and process and then technology on top of it. But you got to have the first two before the other one even matters.
I tell my managers the same way all the time. I said, if you have really good people, you can get away with some shoddy processes. If you don't have really good people, you better have very bulletproof processes.
Yeah.
You have one or the other,
Yeah.
You have to manage that. That's just kind of what it's about.
No, it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it. Another thing I wanted to dig in with you, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think before we started recording, you brought up a phrase, behavioral metrics.
Right.
So I want to understand that a little bit more. What are you referring to there? What are some of those things? I think you alluded to it with, measuring different things for technicians, but talk about that a little bit for me.
So I think in this business, we've all got hung up on KPIs, right?
Yep.
Rattling numbers off, 2.5 hours in a row, effective labor rate of 85, 90% of your door rate, all these different things. They're great, right? You can have metrics all you want, but the behaviors that get you there, to me, are more important.
Okay.
Again, go back to multi-point.
Yep.
When I'm looking at the reporting, I want to see 90%, 95% multi-points being done on a car.
Yeah.
Right. I want to see the ASR rates, so the additional recommendations. Right.
Yep.
If you got a 70,000 mile average car coming in the door, you're probably going to be over 50% ASRs. Right.
Yeah.
If it's a lower number, it might be a little less. Right.
Yeah.
And then your closing rate. So those three things together: are we doing a multi-point? Are we recommending what we should be recommending? And are we selling? I'm not going to go tell you need to be 2.5 hours in a row if your inspection rate is 12. Right? Your ASRs are 0 or 2, and your closure rate's in the 20s. You're not going to get 2.5 hours in a row.
Right.
But if I get all 4 advisors and all the techs doing the multi-point, 90%, let's say, and I get an ASR rate of 50%, and now I look at my 4 advisors and 3 of them at 40% closing, and one's at 30.
Yep.
Then I look and say, all right, these guys are at 2.2, 2.1, this guy's at 1.7. Now I can address what's getting him at that 1.7.
Right. Right.
Is it the cars he's writing up? Is it the technicians? Is he just not writing a good repair order? But we always seem to be focusing on the end. And how many times have you heard your general manager comes back from a group 20 meeting, right? An NCM, whatever, whatever meeting. Yeah. And it's like the death of the service department is a one-line RO. If we're not at 2.5 hours in RO, fire everybody. Like that's dumb, And so I think the behavior, we can manage that. Right. And then at the end, we look at the metrics and say, okay, how good are we doing towards managing that?
Yep.
So I think that's, and these tools have really helped.
Yeah.
In the past, you didn't know.
Yeah.
You'd sit there and, look at it.
Without standing there in the service department and just kind of observing and writing things down and understanding what's going on. There was no way to know it.
There's no way. We used to have these big blotters on our desk, and we used to check marks on the hours we sold and how many cars had the one-line ROs, and we do this. We never got off our desk. We were doing this stuff. Now you just run a report. And you go, all right, let me go work with Fred because Fred needs some help, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes with everything. It goes with your technicians. You got a technician telling you, I'm not making any hours. Yeah. Let's go look at his multi-points. Let's go look at his videos.
Yeah.
How well is he doing the video? Is he doing it on every car? And again, that's not a metric. That's it's not a KPI. It's a behavioral type thing that you have to work on.
Right.
And that's what I think has been missed in a lot of cases. We're starting from the end, and we shouldn't. We should start the behaviors that lead up to the numbers. Yeah. And then you can figure out what's breaking down. So.
No, I think that's great, and it's a great way to think about it. And it's not. I don't think you're saying that the KPI doesn't matter. The KPI can actually be the flag that makes you go, okay, let's go up funnel and see where it's broken. Yep. Because the KPI is an output, not an input. Exactly. Right. And if you don't fix the input, the output's not going to change. And that's really what it is, right? Cause and effect. That's what you're doing. So yeah. I always just think that, people are people. Yeah. They're going to take the path of least resistance if you let them, right? Yeah. They're 80% water. They can't help themselves, right? That's kind of the way I looked at it, right? Electricity and water both follow that same path. So you have to be the block. You have to be the resistance to get them to do the steps to get you the results. It's always been that way. Yeah. It's just whether you have the fortitude and want to put the effort in to get it there. So right. I've been in places where, one writer job I had, if we were at 2 hours in a row, we got this percentage. If we were at 2.5, we're at this percentage. If we were over 3, we got this percentage. When I was a writer. Yeah. Right?
So you know what we did? We didn't write up oil changes the last week of the month, unless the guy, we wouldn't even make the appointment for you if you had a 30,000 mile service recently.
Yep.
But if you didn't have the 30, then we brought you right in, like that was bad behavior.
Right.
But we were working our pay plan, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the way they force you to do.
Right.
I've never believed in it. I think it's just the wrong way of doing business. I'm not a proponent of it. So the numbers are the numbers. I got 4 advisors. They're all around the same hours per hour. How do we get them a little better?
Yeah.
I got 4 advisors. One's in the toilet. That's what we got to do to work with that guy.
Right.
So, and that's the way I think you have to look at it. You have to, like you said, start from the end, find out the thing, but let's see what the behaviors are that lead you there. So.
Yeah, that's great. I love that framework. It's a great way to look at it. Well, Dave, what haven't we talked about that we should? Anything I didn't ask you that should have asked you?
I don't know. Talk about AI? No.
I mean, we can.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a great tool. I really do. We were talking before the show about, some of the embedded AI, I think in some of the products, Reynolds in particular. I think it's going to be great to help people out. I love the helping you type things.
Yeah.
We need to get a little better on, even for tech notes and 3Cs and, all that stuff. I think all that stuff's going to help everyone out. Maybe that's a way we get text more efficient instead of them pecking away at a keyboard like they've been doing.
Yep. Especially if you can go like talk to text, right? And
that's
you can
beautiful.
just, hey, so I need a CCC. Here's what happened. Here's what I did. And it just fills it in for you. Right. That'd be a great way to handle it.
That'd be a great way for the text, speed them up, save time, right? Talking to their phone or talking to the app, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at right now with AI. Once we get to those little things to help people be more efficient.
Right.
Answering the phone's one thing, answering the internet leads something else. But when we get into the nuts and bolts in the store, I think we could help out these guys, especially the technicians.
Yeah.
They're not typists. They,
Right.
I got mad at one of the manufacturers the other day. I was like, do you have a photography class that they have to go to? You have training, but you teach them because you're rejecting claims because of pictures.
Right.
The guy's a technician.
Yeah.
His fingers, he can't even hit the buttons. They're so swollen. There's, like you're asking them to do stuff they're not cut out to do.
Right.
We do have you don't have a class on photographs.
Right.
I got to send the kids, all these texts to wannabes to FIT up in New York to get a photography class.
Yeah. It's wild. I mean, but it's, we gotta play the game and
we do.
You figure it out. But the easier that we can make it to play that game, the better off everybody's going to be.
And that's what I think. That's where I think the AI and the technology is going to help. It's all those little things I think they're going to add up. And, I think that, when we look at it in 5 years from now, we're going to go, geez, I can't believe we used to do it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to say.
Right.
Because we've been saying that for probably 40 years. So
You're right. You're right. All right. Well, Dave Rogers, Piazza Auto Group, thank you so much for sitting down and talking. It was a fun conversation. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
What a great conversation with Dave Rogers. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. If you weren't taking notes, maybe go back and listen to that one because there were a lot of great nuggets. Appreciate Dave taking time, sharing his experience, sharing his insight. A ton of great stuff in there from a great operator in our industry. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.